Have you ever wondered what would happen if humanity woke up one morning and discovered that money, every coin, every bill, every digital balance had suddenly vanished? No savings, no salaries, no prices, no payments. Just a world standing still, trying to understand what comes next. Today, we are stepping into one of the most shocking what-if scenarios imaginable, a planet forced to operate without the very system that has shaped civilization for thousands of years. At first, it would not feel like a philosophical experiment. It would feel like confusion on a global scale. Stores would not know how to trade. Companies would not know how to function. People would not be sure what anything is worth anymore. The invisible framework that keeps everything running from food distribution to international shipping would suddenly lose its foundation. Across cities and small towns alike, you would see the same question in everyone's eyes: how do we live without the thing that used to organize everything? For the first time in modern history, humanity would face a world where farms, factories, and transportation networks could not operate normally because there is no universal medium of exchange. And without that bridge, the entire engine of global life would shudder and slow. But beneath that chaos lies something deeper, a rare moment where society must rethink the meaning of value itself. When money disappears, we are forced to see the world not through numbers and prices, but through actual needs, skills, and resources. So today, let us take a breath and step into this alternate reality together, a world at the edge of disorder, and at the very same time, the beginning of something entirely new. Now that the world has entered a state of total uncertainty, a new question rises from the confusion. If money is gone, what do we trade with now? This is where humanity instinctively looks back to one of the oldest systems ever created: direct exchange. At first, the idea seems simple enough. If you grow rice and I fix computers, maybe we can help each other out. But the moment people start trying to live this way, they discover the hidden difficulty: value is no longer universal. It becomes personal, subjective, and unpredictable. What one person considers fair might feel completely unbalanced to someone else. Imagine a mechanic trying to repair a truck in exchange for vegetables. How many baskets of produce equal 3 hours of skilled labor? What if the farmer thinks the trade is too expensive? What if the mechanic thinks the opposite? Every interaction becomes a negotiation, and without a shared standard, misunderstandings multiply. Communities would scramble to create temporary systems to keep life steady, maybe tokens, maybe points, maybe hours worked. But these systems would vary from place to place, turning daily life into a puzzle of mismatched rules. A simple trip across town might mean entering a completely different exchange culture. And yet, beneath the confusion, something intriguing happens. People begin to understand each other's skills and needs more closely than ever before. Exchange becomes personal, not transactional. Labor becomes visible, not hidden behind numbers. This is the moment when humanity relearns what value truly means before deciding whether this new way of living can actually last. As communities struggle to adapt to direct exchange, a far larger challenge begins to unfold beyond local towns and neighborhoods. The global supply chain, the vast, interconnected network that delivers food, medicine, electronics, fuel, and everything in between, starts to break apart. Not because people stopped wanting these goods, but because the entire system depended on a single universal tool: money. Without prices, producers can't calculate costs. Without contracts, transportation companies can't guarantee shipments. Without a shared value standard, countries cannot decide how to exchange resources across borders. Ships sit in harbors waiting for agreements that never come. Factories slow down because raw materials do not arrive. Warehouses fill with goods that can't be distributed, not due to scarcity but because there is no accepted method of exchange. Imagine a factory that builds solar panels. It needs metal, glass, circuit boards, skilled engineers, and distribution networks. Every piece of that process used to flow smoothly through financial agreements. Now, each step requires negotiation between multiple groups that may not value each other's work the same way. The smallest disagreement can freeze the entire operation. And it is not only advanced technology at risk. Even basic essentials like grain, fuel, and antibiotics depend on global coordination. The moment money disappears, coordination becomes guesswork. Every transaction becomes a complex conversation. Every shipment becomes uncertain. But chaos is only one side of the story. The breakdown pushes humanity into an uncomfortable but necessary realization: our world is far more interdependent than we ever admitted. And for the first time, people must confront a question that modern civilization never had to ask: how do you run a planet when its main operating system suddenly disappears? When the old systems fall apart, humanity naturally begins searching for anything that can replace the stabilizing function money once provided. Without a common unit of value, society is like an orchestra with no conductor. Every section plays a different rhythm, and the result is a rising wave of confusion. Slowly, different groups begin experimenting with substitute systems. Some communities choose labor hours, where 1 hour of work equals another hour of work, regardless of the task. Others develop community tokens, digital or physical markers that circulate only within a small region. A few attempt to revive resource-based value, where goods are measured by the difficulty of producing them. And in highly organized regions, people even begin building algorithmic models to calculate value using data instead of currency. But each solution comes with its own flaws. Labor hours ignore skill differences. Community tokens fail outside their local borders. Resource-based systems become complicated because not everyone agrees on what is rare or essential. Algorithmic value models raise questions about who controls the data. The world becomes a patchwork of incompatible value systems. Traveling to another city feels like stepping into a parallel universe where the rules of exchange have been rewritten. A baker from one region may have no idea how to pay for transportation in another. Even online communication becomes tangled, as digital platforms struggle to support multiple local systems. Yet amid the confusion, a subtle transformation begins. People start examining the meaning of worth, contribution, and fairness with a clarity they never had before. For the first time in centuries, society is not simply using a value system, it is consciously designing one. And this moment of reinvention will determine whether humanity stabilizes or fractures even further. As societies experiment with new value systems, another seismic shift unfolds quietly in the background. The entire concept of wealth dissolves. Overnight, numbers in bank accounts become meaningless. Investment portfolios no longer hold power. Expensive possessions can't be traded the way they once were. For the first time in modern history, humanity stands on a surprisingly level surface. At first, this feels surreal. People who once held vast financial influence find themselves with no more practical advantage than anyone else. The luxury penthouse and the small apartment suddenly belong to the same world, one where ownership provides shelter, but not economic power. Old hierarchies lose their foundation, and social structures begin to rearrange themselves in unpredictable ways. But this reset does not instantly create fairness. Instead, it reveals something fundamental: wealth was never only about money. It was also about access, knowledge, networks, and opportunity. With currency gone, people start to understand which forms of wealth truly matter: skills that help communities survive, relationships built on trust, and the ability to contribute meaningfully. Some individuals rise quickly because they have practical abilities: growing food, repairing equipment, organizing people. Others struggle because the world no longer rewards abstract or financial professions the same way. The balance of importance shifts from accumulation to usefulness. Communities also begin questioning long-held assumptions. If no one can rely on stored riches, how should resources be shared? Who deserves what? What does fairness look like when everyone technically starts from zero? In this strange new world, the disappearance of traditional wealth becomes more than an economic change: it becomes a psychological turning point. Humanity must rediscover what it means to have value without relying on numbers, status, or material excess. With money no longer existing, something unusual happens almost immediately: a massive portion of the world's old problems simply evaporates. Crimes driven by financial gain lose their meaning. There is nothing to steal from a wallet. Nothing to counterfeit. Nothing to launder. For the first time in centuries, society experiences what it feels like to live without the shadow of monetary exploitation. But nature dislikes empty spaces, and power tends to flow wherever new structures appear. Without financial influence, a different kind of authority rises: control over resources and distribution. Even though communities do not use conventional currency, someone still has to decide how food is allocated, how energy is shared, and who gets access to limited supplies. Slowly, the people who manage these systems become the most influential figures in society. Not through wealth, but through necessity. A coordinator who oversees water distribution may hold more practical power than a former billionaire. A logistics manager responsible for medical supplies may become a central figure in regional decision-making. The roles do not look like traditional leadership, but their impact is undeniable. This shift creates a new balance: safer communities with fewer financial conflicts, yet new vulnerabilities rooted in trust and transparency. Without clear rules, people start to wonder who should lead resource allocation. What checks should exist? How do we prevent favoritism or imbalance? These questions mark a crucial turning point. Humanity begins to realize that removing money does not automatically remove inequality. Instead, it reshapes it into a different form, one no longer tied to numbers but to influence, responsibility, and access. And as societies grapple with this new reality, they face a deeper question: can a world without financial corruption still struggle with power in other ways? As the new power structures take shape, another profound shift spreads quietly through daily life: the meaning of work begins to dissolve. Without salaries, bonuses, profits, or financial incentives, the world suddenly has to confront a question it has avoided for centuries: why do we work at all? In the early days, productivity drops sharply. Factories slow because workers are unsure what they will receive in return. Office jobs tied to financial systems lose purpose entirely. Many professions that once depended on monetary reward not out of passion, but necessity struggle to redefine themselves. The rhythm of modern life starts to fade. But this drop reveals something deeper. Once people no longer work because of pressure or survival, their choices become more honest. Some discover that they truly enjoy creating, repairing, teaching, or growing. Others realize that their old jobs never aligned with who they were. The world becomes a patchwork of individuals searching for new personal motivations. Communities respond in different ways. Some encourage shared responsibility, where tasks are divided based on ability and willingness. Others develop honor-based systems that recognize meaningful contributions. A few places turn to structured rotation, ensuring everyone plays a role in essential work like farming, maintenance, and resource management. Interestingly, creativity and craftsmanship begin to flourish. Without financial goals, artists, inventors, engineers, and thinkers start creating simply because they want to, because curiosity and passion become powerful motivators once survival no longer dictates behavior. Yet, the balance is fragile. Societies must learn how to inspire commitment without coercion, and how to value contributions that cannot be easily measured. This is the moment when humanity confronts a fundamental truth: a world without money can only function if people rediscover a deeper reason to act, not for profit, but for purpose. As societies adjust to working without financial pressure, something unexpected begins to happen. When people are no longer bound to jobs purely for survival, their minds naturally drift toward the things they once pushed aside: curiosity, creativity, experimentation, and the simple joy of learning. What starts as a slow shift soon grows into a quiet global movement. Artists who once struggled to earn a living suddenly find time to explore new ideas without worrying about income. Scientists who felt limited by grants or budgets now collaborate freely, driven purely by shared fascination. Engineers begin building tools not because they are profitable, but because they are meaningful or innovative. Human creativity breathes in a way it has not for centuries. Knowledge, too, transforms. With no financial barrier, education becomes universally accessible. Communities create shared learning spaces. People exchange skills directly: woodworking for mathematics, gardening for physics, languages for engineering. The value of knowledge becomes not transactional, but communal. The absence of financial competition also shifts scientific progress. Instead of chasing funding, researchers pursue problems that genuinely matter to humanity: sustainable energy, medical advancements, environmental recovery, and new forms of communication. Breakthroughs happen faster when the only motivation is curiosity and collective well-being. But this new golden age is not without challenges. Without structured incentives, some fields advance more slowly than before. Without budgets, large-scale projects require unprecedented cooperation. Success depends entirely on how much communities value learning and creation. Even so, the cultural shift is unmistakable. A world without money becomes a world where imagination replaces ambition, and where the desire to understand replaces the desire to earn. In this era, humanity rediscovers a truth it had forgotten. When curiosity becomes the main currency, progress takes on a different and often more beautiful shape. As creativity and knowledge surge, humanity soon faces a practical question that can't be avoided: who will handle the essential work that society depends on? Farming, manufacturing, transportation, energy systems — these are not optional. And without financial incentives, it becomes increasingly difficult to keep these massive operations running through human effort alone. This is the moment when artificial intelligence and automation step from the background into the center of civilization. Machines, once created to save time or increase profit, now become the silent workforce that keeps society stable. Automated farms manage planting and harvesting. Autonomous vehicles move supplies across regions. AI-driven logistics systems coordinate distribution with precision that no negotiation-based system could match. For the first time, humanity begins to see automation not as a replacement for jobs, but as a foundation for survival. The old question, will machines take our work, is replaced by a new one: can machines help us build a stable world without money? AI becomes essential in another way, too. Without currency, societies must allocate resources based on need, availability, and sustainability. Human judgment alone struggles with these calculations. But AI systems can evaluate millions of variables at once: food production levels, energy demand, regional shortages, population changes, and propose fair, data-driven solutions. Still, deeper questions arise. Who programs these systems? Who ensures transparency? How do communities trust an algorithm to decide how resources are shared? The answers require cooperation, careful oversight, and a commitment to fairness. But despite the concerns, the truth becomes clear: a world without money cannot function on human labor alone. It needs technology not as a symbol of control, but as a shared tool that allows society to stay balanced. In this chapter of humanity's evolution, AI becomes less of a luxury and more of a lifeline. After years of instability, experimentation, and reinvention, humanity begins to settle into a rhythm it never expected. The world is quieter not because life has become simple, but because people have finally adapted to a reality beyond currency. Communities rely on cooperation rather than competition. Value is measured in contribution, skill, and trust instead of numbers on a screen. Slowly, a new form of stability emerges. For some regions, this transition becomes a turning point. With automation sustaining basic production and shared systems managing distribution, people finally have the freedom to explore meaning, curiosity, and connection. Old conflicts rooted in wealth fade, replaced by collective goals and shared responsibility. In these places, the world without money becomes something almost ideal, fairer, calmer, and more focused on what truly matters. But the path here is not easy. Humanity has to overcome psychological barriers: fear of scarcity, attachment to hierarchy, and the instinct to compete. Societies must learn how to maintain fairness without a universal metric, and how to resolve disputes without financial structures. The journey is long and full of uncertainty. Yet the final outcome reveals something extraordinary: when survival is no longer tied to currency, the human spirit takes on a different shape. People begin to value empathy, creativity, and collaboration in ways that were overshadowed before. Progress is measured not by profit, but by the well-being of the community. In this world, humanity discovers that removing money was never the goal. The real transformation lies in understanding what replaces it: connection, purpose, and the shared belief that life can be organized around something deeper than numbers. And with that realization, the money-free society becomes more than a thought experiment. It becomes a glimpse of a future built not on wealth, but on wisdom. And so, after tracing every twist and turn of this thought experiment, we arrive at a surprising truth: a world without money is neither a perfect paradise nor an inevitable disaster. It is a mirror, one that reflects who we are as a species. Remove currency, and what remains are the things that have always mattered most: cooperation, trust, creativity, and the ability to adapt when everything familiar disappears. This imagined future forces us to question something simple yet profound. What truly holds our world together? Is it the systems we build, or the values we carry inside them? In the end, a society without money challenges us to rethink not just economics, but purpose, identity, and what we choose to contribute to the people around us. Whether humanity could ever reach such a world is uncertain. But imagining it reveals how deeply interconnected we already are and how much potential still lies waiting in the way we treat one another. Thank you for wandering through this world of ideas with me. If you enjoyed exploring today's mystery, remember that there are countless more waiting just beyond the edge of the familiar. See you in the next episode of 1001 What If Mysteries, where every question opens a completely new way of looking at our world.